YouTube, what is happening? Efficient in the field, coming in hot with my top land navigation tips for shit hit the fan. That's right, dudes. And I'm going to do some big-ass land navigation videos. That's my plan once I get this drone here so you guys can actually see the terrain better. And we'll do like some recons on maps and do all that shit. So make sure you subscribe because you're not going to want to miss it. I'm going to blow it up like nobody on YouTube has before. But in the meantime, dudes, since this government wants to do everything it can to provoke Putin into nuking us, I might as well drop the top tips right now so you can take advantage of it. So that's what we're going to do, guys. This is literally the 80-20 of land navigation. And what's the 80-20? Well, it's 20% of what we do produces 80% of the results. And why am I qualified to talk about this? Well, back in the service, I learned land navigation. I did a shit ton of it through pre-ranger course and then through ranger school. I was the only guy that knew where we were in numerous map checks in ranger school. And as a matter of fact, the guys I went through the school with started just sticking me on land nav all the time because they wanted to succeed in their leadership position. And they wanted to be in the right place at the right time. And this guy knew how to get them there. So I did a shit ton of land nav there. I did land nav after it. And I did a ton of land nav in the civilian world, doing recons for the places me and my family were going. For those of you that don't know, we lived off-grid for almost 9 years, traveling all over the states, living in places that we weren't familiar with. So I had to familiarize myself with these places and understand the terrain and all that, yada, yada, yada. So I am qualified as fuck to do this video. So let's get right after it. Here is my number one shit hit the fan land nav tip. Number one. You can scratch all the rest of these, man. Scratch them all if you do this one thing. And that is to know the absolute shit out of your area of operation. That's right, dudes. You should know it like the back of your hand. What makes a defending force so effective when invaders come in? It's a number of things, right? One of them is they're protecting their homes, their families. But another one of them is that they know the land like the back of their hand. And if you know the land that well, you don't need a compass. You don't need a map because Murphy's Law is going to try to screw you. I'm going to let you know right now, and shit hit the fan, it is going to try to stick it to you so hard, baby. And when you lose that compass or you break it, if you were dependent on that shit, you're screwed. And I know a lot of guys are just like, I'm just going to go get on topoVIEW, the U.S. Geological site, and I'm just going to print up a whole bunch of maps of my area, laminate them, stick them in my freaking bug out bag with my compass, and I'm good. That might be the easy way to do it, but that is not the good way to do it. The good way is to burn up those miles. I'll tell you guys what, man, I practice what I preach. I took this job out here on the ranch a little more than 3 years ago, and I have literally driven thousands of miles at this point in time in the area around the ranch. And we're talking dirt roads and 4x4 roads. All right, so it's even more costly if you think about that. You're not getting 20 miles per gallon, man. You're getting like 8 or 4. But I've done it, and I know the shit out of this area of operations. Was it cheap? No. It cost me a lot of time. It cost me a lot of gas money. It cost me wear and tear on my vehicles. It cost me a lot of cash in adult beverages and like tri-tips and shit, because me and my wife, when we're out doing this kind of thing, man, we want to take a break for lunch, dig a hole, get some hot coals going, throw a grate on top and cook something and eat something good. You know what I mean? So no, it is costly, but it's far more effective than having to rely on tools to make it happen for you. We talk about this on the channel all the time. The more you know, the less shit you need. That's where you want to be. And it's no different when it comes to land navigation, dudes. So if you're going to listen to me and you're going to take this and you're going to put it into action, what you need to do is you need to get some topographical maps of your area. You can find them on the topoVIEW site. It's a U.S. Geological Survey webpage. They have all kinds of historic maps on there. You can print them out for free. Go do it so you have something to reference, and you can look at what roads you're going down. It's going to help familiarize you with the area out there and start spending the time right now, dudes. Here's a lightning fast tutorial on Topo Map. Guys, go to the website. I'm going to put the link in the description down below. You basically are going to zoom in on your area of operations. What maps do you actually need? What areas are you going to scout out? Let's say it's Alpine, Wyoming area in Wyoming. That's what we're looking at right now. You get in there, you find the maps you want to see, and on the right over here, you're going to see there's all these map options. There's old historical maps. You can click the view button, and it will actually put those right up on the main map. Ta-da! Just like that. And you can scroll through it, look for anything notable. Obviously, water, dudes, is super, super, super big. So seasonal springs, year-round springs, that kind of business. The other thing you can do here is you can actually go over to the far right and click on the map itself, and it will bring up like a pop-up window that is printable. So you want to print them, laminate them, stick them in your bug out bag, whatever, throw them in your vehicle so you have them when you're out there driving around. That's another good approach that you can take. And dudes, get this done, get out there, start beating feet and scouting out all this shit in your AO. If you are the guy that's going to rely on maps and a compass and shit hit the fan, let's say that you're listening to me, but you have to make some long movement and it's too long for you to familiarize yourself with everything in between it, or you're like, shit, Putin's going to nuke us tomorrow. Like, I just need to have my maps and my compass. Shooting clean azimuths is very important, and taking clean readings on the map. And you guys probably know, because you've been around, a lot of you guys been around like me, you know that certain people have a good eye and other people just don't have that good of an eye. Well, people with a good eye are going to shoot better azimuths. They're going to take cleaner readings on a map. So if you suck at it, lining shit up, like I'm the guy that can go drill pilot holes and they're going to be straight as an arrow. You know, I can just, I got a good eye for that kind of shit. So I shoot clean azimuths. If that's not you, but you got a kid that's got a great eye, man, have him shoot the azimuths with the compass. Have him take the readings off the map. Show him how to get it done. Next, you want to move at night when possible. And you want it to make sense. You know what I'm saying, dude? So if you have night vision, is that going to make it easier for you? Absolutely it will. Probably a lot of people watching this video don't have night vision. So I'm going to talk about it from their perspective. And even with night vision, guys, you want to move in nights where the illumination is pretty good. The natural illumination, right? Because you don't want to be walking around with the freaking IR beam on. Some dude 1,000 yards away is going to see you because he's got night vision too. He's going to be like, oh, there's some dude walking around with night vision over there. And the whole idea of moving at night in the first place is to move and not get caught, right? Because most people are going to be camping out. They're going to wait till an hour before sundown. They're going to find a place to camp. They're going to set up their sleeping bags and all that kinds of shit. And you want to be able to just breeze through these areas and not have to deal with other people being on foot and walking around and doing their thing. So use nights of good illumination to your advantage. Who knows what the Apache moon is? I'm going to tell you what it is real quick. Back in the 1800s in Texas, you had all these settlers coming in and settling on Apache land, and they weren't real happy with that. So they would wait until a full moon. They'd all hop on their war ponies, and they'd ride through and murder people and kidnap others, and they'd go torture them like terrible, like just horrific torture for weeks before they'd murder them anyways. And so anyways, the people in Texas began to call the full moon the Apache moon. And the Apaches, what they were doing is just taking advantage of the best natural illumination you're going to have at night. The next thing that's important if you're going to use maps and a compass is to have an accurate pace count. Now, how do you get this done, dudes? You go get a laser rangefinder and you get out somewhere and you're like, boop, you shoot 100 meters and you're going to step off with your right foot, but every time your left foot hits the ground, you're going to count it. Okay, so for me, my pace count on flat ground that's unobstructed, 100 meters, is a 54. Those of you that know land nav know that's very low. I take really long strides. But here's the big trick about this pace count deal, guys, is that your pace count is going to change based on the terrain. And really, experience and having a bit of a mathematical brain is going to help you make those adjustments. I'm just going to keep it real for you, right? So let me give you some examples. Let's say my pace count being 54 on flat open ground. Let's say that I have to cross flat ground that has a whole bunch of trees that were felled across it by the Forest Service a few years ago. So now I got to step over these trees. I got to maybe walk along top of a couple. I mean, this depends on the situation, right? As it shit hit the fan, this might be a better thing to just completely avoid in the first place because it's effectively an open danger area if all the trees have been felled. but my pace count is going to change moving through that area. It's going to take me more steps. How many steps? Only experience is going to tell me, and I actually will adjust this on the fly because I'll know how I changed the way I was walking. How much shorter were my steps, yada, yada, yada. Let me give you another example where it's a little easier to use some math. Let's say you have to walk up a 15-degree incline. How's that going to affect your pace count? Well, my pace count's going to go from a 54 to roughly like a 68 going up that kind of an incline because my steps are going to be shorter. So you have to make those kind of adjustments. You can think about it like this. I'm taking steps that are 20% shorter. So what's that going to do? Well, it's going to increase my pace count by 20% to equal 100 meters. Using Ranger beads, let's talk about it real fast, guys. I'll show you some video because I still have my original Ranger beads from the service attached to my haversack. Not that I use them anymore because I follow rule number 1, know the shit out of your area of operations. But if I had to use them, here's how they work. There's 4 beads on the top, and these are 1 kilometer beads. There are 9 beads at the bottom, and those are 100 meter beads. So what you do is you slide all your beads either to the bottom or you slide them all to the top. And then when you count off that first 100 meter pace count, you slide a bottom bead the other way. Well, eventually you're going to have all 9 beads slid in that direction after moving 900 yards. And so when you finally make that last 100-yard movement that brings you to 1,000 meters, you're going to go to move a bead and it's not going to be there. And so that's when you move your first 1 kilometer bead and then you reset all your bottom beads and you keep going. You guys are going to notice that Ranger beads are only going to work for up to 5 kilometers. What do you do when you've moved 5 kilometers? You've got all 4 of your kilometer beads moved and you've got all 9 of your 100 meter beads moved. You guys get the idea. What do? Well, you reset them all and you take out a pen out of your pocket and you write a 5 on your wrist. Not on your hands because this ink's going to wear off. It's going to be subjected to the weather and to you grabbing shit and stuff like that will get rubbed off. So write it on the wrist, under your sleeve, and it's going to be protected. It'll actually stay there for probably like a couple weeks and shit at the fan because you're not bathing like you're used to. Another thing that's really important when it comes to land navigation is this. Shut the fuck up and navigate. It is not time to jaw jack. It is not time to let your mind be preoccupied with thoughts of whatever the fuck it's going to be. No, you need to be absolutely living in the now and focus on the task. And what you really need to be doing is paying attention to terrain features and things that stand out. There's a lot of people in this world that can't navigate. And oh boy, please don't put them in charge of your navigation. But you're going to notice that a lot of times it's because they're busy talking and they're busy focused on anything other than making sure they're walking the direction they should be walking or keeping track of their pace count for that matter. I know some of these people personally, dudes, and I'll tell you what, I guess it's good that they live in a world right now where they can just Google Maps everything. Another one of the big tips, if you are navigating with a compass, is if you're right-handed, you need to take all your measurements with your right hand. That's right. What did I just tell you? I just told you that you're going to have to take your hand off your weapon. You're going to have to do it. Because what happens is if you're right-handed, you drift right. That's what you do. You tend to drift right. Doesn't matter if you take your compass reading with your left hand. You're a right-handed person. You're going to have a tendency to drift right. Now, here's the thing. Whatever hand you hold the compass in, you're going to drift that direction as well. So now, let's say you're right-handed, so you're going to drift right naturally. You're holding your compass in your right hand. You're taking all the readings in your right hand, so you're going to drift right from that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to step around obstacles to the right, most of the time at least, right? So this is going to offset you to the right by the time you're done walking that leg. Let's say you have to move 5 kilometers and you're moving it on a certain azimuth. If you offset yourself intentionally to the right, when you get there, you know you're going to be the right of your final spot. That's what you want. You don't want to end up finishing your pace count and looking around and be like, where the hell am I? Like, what side of my target am I on? You don't want that. You want to come out intentionally to one side. Now, let me give you an example about going around obstacles. Let's say that you're walking through a field that's full of sagebrush. Well, the first sagebrush you hit, you're going to just take a step to the right and keep going. The second one you hit, you're going to take a step to the right and keep going. The third one, you can go to the left of it. And what you're doing is you're slowly offsetting yourself to the right. If you go to the right of every single thing, man, you could end up way off at the end. You want to just slowly offset yourself a bit to the right. Another big trick with shooting azimuths that a lot of people aren't aware of is you can shoot your azimuth at a very distant terrain feature if you're in a somewhat open place like out here. I can shoot one at a hill or a tree that's 2 miles that way. I literally got a 2-mile range right out the back door of the freaking house out here, pimps. But I can shoot an azimuth to a tree 2 miles away. And this is really going to speed you up. A lot of people just getting into land navigation, they don't realize this. They walk like 50 yards and they check their compass again. And then they walk 50 yards and they check their compass again. I've seen infantry guys do it. I'm just like, oh, what are you doing, man? No, you shoot it to the most distant thing you can see that lines up with that azimuth. And do you have to shoot it exactly to something? You don't have to, right? Let's say I'm shooting an azimuth and it's to the right of this hill, but that hill's like 2 miles away. Well, I'm just going to walk towards where the compass lined up on that hill. I'm just going to walk to the right of that hill. I might be like a hair off by the time I get there. But it's going to be good enough. When you are in thick terrain, because a lot of us are going to be operating in like thick terrain where you can't do this. You can't use distant terrain features and shoot an azimuth to them. What you're going to do is you're going to shoot your azimuth and you're going to see what it's pointing at, some distant tree, whatever, or a tree that's 50 yards away. And you're going to start walking directly towards that tree. Before you get to the tree, you're going to line something up past it. You know what I'm saying? So maybe another tree past it or a bush. And you're going to walk there and you're going to go to the right of these things. And you can do this for a bit, but in thick terrain, you really want to be checking your azimuth again like every 200 meters. If it's super, super thick and you're up in some like jungle ass like swamp shit in the south, you're going to have to check it probably every 100 meters. It just is what it is, man. It's so easy to get turned around, screwing around with all those wait a minute vines and that kind of shit that you're going to have to check it more frequently. Here is a compass tip for navigating at night. And this is a big one, dudes. I had a lot of guys in the infantry that were like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you shooting any azimuths? I'm like, don't worry about it. I know where we're going. They were mind boggled about this shit, dudes. Seriously. So I would get out and I would shoot an azimuth at a star. That's right. I'd shoot an azimuth. I'd line it up with whatever bright star was right above it or close enough, because as we've already decided, if my azimuth's a bit to the right of a star, I'm just going to walk a bit to the right of the star. I'd get out there. I'd be walking for like 10 minutes before I check my azimuth again. And they couldn't figure out what I was doing and how I could do these movements at night and take us right where we needed to go. Here's the thing. The stars move through the sky. They don't really move. They really stay in the same spot, but the planet is like spinning and shit like that. So they move through the night sky for us. So what you can't do is shoot an azimuth at a star and walk all night long. You're going to end up totally off course. You're going to shoot your azimuth, pick that star, and you can do 10, 15 minutes before you need to shoot another one and adjust. Something else that a lot of people don't think about, because especially people that are prior military, you get trained a certain way, you get caught up on it, that's what you know, and that's what you go to. Not that it doesn't work, but you don't have to plan a route by your maps. You don't have to do that, guys. You can get out somewhere where you've got pretty good visibility over the terrain and the land out in front of you. Maybe you're in a city and you get up on top of a 3rd-story building and you're looking at everything, right? And you're like, okay, well, I need to get there. You don't need to look at a map to know you need to get there. And what you can do, because when you get back down on the ground floor and you're moving, you need to make sure you're going in the right direction. So what you do is when you get up on top of that building and you see where you want to go, you just shoot an azimuth to it. You're like, boop, that's my azimuth. And I'm going to get on my way as soon as the sun starts going down. You know what I mean? You get out there, and while you're maneuvering your way through the city, you can just pull that compass out when you need to and shoot it and make sure you're headed in the right direction. And a lot of times in the city, I should get into this real quick. It's not a great place to be in SHTF, obviously, but you're going to find more luck traveling blocks as opposed to shooting a straight azimuth and trying to follow it, because cities are organized. You know what I mean, dude? So you're probably going to have to go on a multiple legs. And a leg is one azimuth at a certain distance before you change it. That's what a leg is. So when I'm talking about legs, that's what I mean. So you might need to shoot an azimuth to a building that's on the same street and is so far from you. Be like, I'm going to travel at this first, and then I'm going to travel at 90 degrees off of that, especially if the city's planned that way with regular sized blocks. And then you're going to make a 90-degree turn, and you're going to go this other azimuth for so far. Okay, but the whole point, guys, is you don't have to plan your route by the map. You can actually plan your route using your own sight, just looking at the terrain. And you can plan multiple legs of a route that way. I should mention real quick, if you want to be able to get back to where you started, you're going to want to keep track of those azimuths and the distance you traveled. Last but certainly not least, you need to know what magnetic declination is. Here's the deal, dudes. The North Pole, if you look at a map, it's straight north of you. But magnetic north is not straight north of you. It can be, depending on where you are. But you really need to look up your magnetic declination. And what this is it's how far you have to adjust. Now, depending on if you're in the eastern U.S., like over there, magnetic north is actually to the west of true north for you. And if you're on the western U.S., magnetic north is actually to the east of true north. And it's going to be rated in how many degrees it's off. And what you have to do is make adjustments. So if you're using a map and you're plotting your route by a map, and you're like, I need to move at a 50-degree azimuth. Well, if you're on the East Coast, when you actually go to point that compass is going to give you a false reading to the west slightly. That's what it's going to do. So you have to adjust. Okay? So check out magnetic declination. I'm going to put a website down in the description. Actually, I'll probably show you guys a video. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has a calculator that will tell you what your magnetic declination is. So what did we learn, guys? We're going to wrap up the video right here. What did we learn? Well, we learned that the most important thing you need to do is know the shit out of your area of operations, because if you know that, the rest of this shit, you don't need it. You don't need the rest of the stuff, man. That's what we learned. That is a numero uno, man. Know the shit out of the area you're going to be operating in. I cannot say it enough. I'm going to wrap it right there, guys. Make sure you like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel. Check out my Patreon link in the description. Actually, I had some patrons ask me to go over land nav tips. I think it was Shane. And I covered these things in a big info dump for them. I dropped tons of information for them. So if you're interested in a lot of additional information that's already available, my Patreon is the place to get it. That's it, guys. Take care. Get ready. Keep paying attention, dudes, because it's getting kind of gnarly, man. The threat of full nuke war is higher than it has ever been in the history of humanity. Fingers crossed, dudes. Take care. I'll see you all in the next video.